We're going to maintain the funding throughout this year. Every mayor I talked to said they can find savings, so that's good news. But they said they needed more runway. We're willing to work with them, give them more runway.
A major reversal by the Premier here at Queen's Park today. He announced he was canceling those retroactive cuts to municipalities. Those cuts had him pitted in battle against Mayor John Tory, and clearly Doug Ford realized he was losing that battle with the mayor and bleeding voter support.
At the end of the day, the taxpayers are going to be better off.
The Premier seemed subdued during this morning's unexpected reversal. Hardly surprising, given he just lost a very public war with Toronto Mayor John Tory. Insiders say Doug Ford's government has been in panic mode after several recent polls showed his retroactive cuts to municipalities were unpopular, with one poll suggesting Ford's approval rating was even below that of Kathleen Wynne's just before her party was crushed in the last election. The Premier and his minister's strategy was to insist they aren't backtracking, they're listening.
We're a government that listens.
I call it listening.
John Tory was warning public health, childcare, and paramedics were all going to be impacted by the cuts, which resonated with voters. But it's not the government's first reversal. It also backtracked from its changes to the autism program weeks after dramatically altering it.
Has your government just moved too fast, too soon? I mean, this is not the first time you've had to back down from something.
I would explain that by saying it took us a long time to actually do our line-by-line audit. It probably took us a little bit longer than we thought it was going to take.
This is a new government with a rookie premier that moved at breakneck speed out of the gate after being elected and at times has underestimated the backlash. All is not lost, though, according to PC strategist Jason Leader.
They inherited a massive deficit from the Liberals, and I think none of that's easy. I was here back in these halls back in the early to mid '90s to the late '90s, and it was some tough slogging. And every once in a while, it's tougher than you think it's going to be. But I will say this, and Doug Ford, what his critics say about him is not necessarily what I see out of him, which is a man who listens and actually, if he needs to recalibrate, he stops and gets it done.
Is Doug Ford worried about his political future? Not according to him.
I've been in this game long enough. I've been up in the polls, I've been down in the polls, I've been back up in the polls, the only poll that's going to count in 4 years. And the question is going to be, is this province better off than it was 4 years prior? And the answer in 1 year, we're 10 times better off fiscally than we were 10 months ago.
Now, voters elected Doug Ford's government knowing that there would be cuts. However, most want those cuts to be thoughtful, rational, and fair. Cutting budgets to municipalities after they have set their budgets just didn't meet that criteria.